Hi YouTube friends, it's been a while. Welcome back to another video. I'm so excited to bring you this tutorial. So this summer shirt is a no panel join summer shirt. This is easy. You just work through with a big granny square and then you extend to have a full shirt. Let's get right into the video, and I hope you subscribe and turn on your post notifications so that you don't miss any crochet tutorials from me. For the list of materials, you are going to need 2 shades of yarn. This is going to be the dominant color. I choose deep brown for this project, and then we are going to need some stripes of white for the design at the back and the front as well. You are going to need a pair of safety scissors, some measuring tape. For the hook, I'll be using both 3.5 and 2.0. It depends on what you want. Okay, the 3.5 is going to give you loose stitches. The 2.0 is going to give you tight granny stitches. You're also going to need some stitch markers. Let's begin. So let's begin with the basic steps. Okay, the very first step is to work a square. Okay, you know a square has the same size for both width and length. Okay, however, we are going to make 23 rows or more depending on your back extension. So the nails across the back measures 44 centimeters. So if you are between this size, if your customer or the person you are doing it for is between this size for the across back, and 23 rows for the initial square would be okay for the customer. Okay, so that's the very first basic step. For the step 2, which I want to run you through, however, when we start you would get a hang of it. Step 2 is going to extend the sides. Okay, we are going to work on the side panels without making it separately and join. Okay, we are going to continue working the granny stitches in order to extend the square into a rectangular form, to extend to the bottom. Okay, so we are going to work in rounds just like this, back and forth. Okay, to extend the length, and then the length would be 69 centimeters for the customer or whatever. You can work so many rows to extend it. Okay, so after you work on the side panel and the extension, you realize that you have to work more for the side panel in order to extend it to the front, so that when you add a button it will be easier to close. So that's when we work on the very final steps of this shirt, this summer shirt. We'll be working on the front extension to bring it a little bit close, and then we'll be working on the borders and the collar. Then we work on one sleeve and the other for the opposite side. I'm going to give you all the number of rows information down in the description box in case I miss it, but that is it. And before we continue this video, if you don't know the basic double crochet stitch, the chain stitch, or single crochet or half double crochet stitches, these are the basic stitches. I'll leave some resources for you. Go on YouTube, go learn these basic stitches, because I'm not going to brush through significantly. We are working on the shirt construction, so I won't be going in very detail. But if you are able to, if you know how to make these stitches, you are good to go. This is very beginner friendly. Let's begin. So I pulled my strand from the middle of the yarn so that it will aid me in working with this acrylic yarn. To begin, I'll be using my 3.5 millimeter hook. We are going to make a magic ring. Let's run through the basics. You cross across your finger in a cross-like motion. Just wrap it like this way. Grab your hook, pull through the first strand, and then pull the second strand through the one on the finger. Hold tight, secure. Okay, now you are going to chain a total of 2. 1, 2. This will count as a double crochet. I'm going to put a total of 2 double crochets in the magic ring. So this is the first one. 1. And this is going to be the second one. 2. Okay, you have this nice cluster. Afterwards, you're going to chain 2, which will serve as a space. Go back into the same magic ring and put a total of 3 double crochets. So 1, 2, and 3. Okay, we are going to chain 2 again. Put a total of 3 double crochets in the same magic ring. 1, 2, and then 3. We have 3 clusters so far. We are supposed to make 4 clusters, okay? Chain 2, go back inside the same magic ring, put a total of 3 once again, 3 double crochets. We now have 4 clusters, okay? You can now pull secure tight to close up the magic ring. However, in order to connect, you are going to chain a total of 2 once again and connect into the very first chain 2 you made. So chain 2 and then connect over here. The yarn is dark, so I don't know if you can see, but over here, and slip stitch to join. Okay, nicely done. This is your 4 clusters made. Very basic here. So I changed position because of the lightning. Let's go on to the next row. Okay, so after connecting, you are going to chain a total of 3. Okay, and then you are going to work 2 double crochets in the same exact chain 2 space which connected this row. Okay, however, you can see that you are moving far away, so when you are going to yarn over and insert inside, so just yarn over. When you are inserting, go a little bit backwards. Okay, just insert inside the space, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. So you realize that you have this V. Okay, you are going to add an extra double crochet in the same exact space. So the chain 3 counts as a double crochet, making 3 clusters. Okay, afterwards you are going to chain a total of 2. 1, 2, go back in the same exact space and put a total of 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. I'm going to have your first corner just like this. It's going to be your first corner. Afterwards, you're going to chain just 1. That will be the separation between the corner and the next corner. Okay, I'm now going to work in your next chain 2 space. Put a total of 3 double crochets. And then we are going to chain 2. In the same exact space, 3 double crochets. Okay, chain 1, move to the next corner space, chain 2 space, put a total of 3 double crochets. Chain 2, in the same space, 3 double crochets. Nicely done. This is going to be our final corner space. So you just chain 1, move to the chain 2 space, 3 double crochets, chain 2, 3 double crochets. Okay, chain 1 and connect to the very first chain 3 space you made for this row. Insert, pull through, secure. So we realize that we have 4 corner clusters and then chain 1 spaces in between each clusters, which would be helping us with our increasing motion to extend the square. Okay, and we are going to make 9 rows for this color before we switch to white. So yeah, let's move to row 3. This is the 3rd row. We are going to chain 3 as usual to begin. Okay, in the same exact space we are going to put a total of 2 double crochets to make your 3 double crochet cluster. Nicely done. Now you are going to work in your corner shell. Okay, you can see that there's this corner shell. The 3 double crochet we worked was a standalone space. It's in between the 2 shells here, this one and this one. So let's move to this shell. Don't get confused. I'm going to chain 1. Okay, in this corner shell we are going to put a total of 3 double crochets, chain 2, 3 double crochets, just as seen. So let's go to the space, 3 double crochets, chain 2, 3 double crochets. Nicely done. And then we are going to chain 1, move to the next space, this space here, the chain 1 space from the previous row, and just put a cluster of 3 double crochets, just 3 double crochets. Okay, now you can see that we are moving to our next corner space or shell. Just chain 1, and in that corner space we're going to put a total of 3 double crochets, chain 2, 3 double crochets. Nicely done. Okay, you chain 1, in the next space just a total of 3 double crochets, 1, 2 and 3. And then in the next corner space over here, chain 1, place a total of 3 double crochets, chain 2, 3 double crochets. Okay, afterwards we're going to chain 1, in the next space just a cluster of double crochet, 3 double crochets. Okay, so just 3 double crochets. Chain 1. This is going to be your last corner space, so 3 double crochets, chain 2, 3 double crochets, 1, 2, 3, chain 2, 1, 2 and 3. Okay, I'm going to chain 1 and connect to the very first chain 3 you made with a slip stitch, and this is what you should have. So you should be keeping count of each row you make. Okay, I'll be leaving my sizing information in the description. If I don't, please remind me. I'm making a size medium for this. Okay, and actually my gauge differs for the initial work I made, which was very lightweight. So the more lighter you make, the more smaller the stitches become, and so the gauge changes. Okay, but this is lightweight by a little bit, you know, thicker. Let's move to row 4. I'm going to chain 3 as usual in the same exact space. Okay, just go back and place a total of 2 double crochets extra, making a total of 3. Okay, just like this. The cluster stand alone. You chain 1, move to the next space here, a total of 3 double crochets. So you realize that this cluster is now increasing to be 2 clusters. Okay, the 3 double crochets. However, we are moving to our very first corner space, and you know that according to our previous rules made, when you get to the corner space, you are going to repeat the same thing. So chain 1, we are going to place a total of 3 double crochets, chain 2, 3 double crochets. Nicely done. So if you are taking notice, okay, this is a cluster. In between we have a chain 1 space. I'm going to put 3 double crochets here. You chain 1, move to the next space, 3 double crochets. However, when you get to the corner space, you're going to put a total of 3 double crochets, chain 2, 3 double crochets. Okay, I'll meet you here. So here we are. I did my 3 double crochets, chain 1, 3 double crochets in between the spaces, and then in the corner space I did my 3 double crochets, chain 2, 3 double crochet in the same exact space. I'm just going to repeat it all around in the other 2 sides till I meet this cluster, which is the last corner space. I'll meet you there, and then we begin the next section. Last corner space, 3 double crochets, chain 2, 3 double crochets. All corner spaces completed. In order to join, as usual, you're going to chain 1 and slip stitch into the very first chain 3 you made. So insert your hook, pull through, secure. Let's move to row 5 quickly. I'm going to chain 3 as usual to begin. In the same exact space, I'm going to put a total of 2 double crochets plus the chain 3 will make your 3 double crochet cluster. Nicely done. Now chain 1, move to the next space, 3 double crochets. Chain 1, move to the next space, 3 double crochets. So you realize that previously we had 2 standalone 3 double crochet clusters in between the shells, the corner spaces shells. Now we are going to have 3. Okay, so this is the first one, second one, third one, and it keeps increasing. It will increase to 4, 5, 6, and so on and so forth. So the square keeps expanding. Okay, the increase will be for all the 4 sides. However, when you get to the corner space, you are just going to repeat the same exact thing. You can see that it has been running throughout from the very beginning all over. Okay, so let's make our very first corner stitch, 3 double crochets, chain 2, 3 double crochets for this row. Nicely done. I'm going to follow the same thing as done, 3 double crochets, then you move to the next space, chain 1, 3 double crochets, chain 1, 3 double crochets, so you make your next clusters for the corner space. So you are supposed to have 3 for this row, 3 standalone 3 clusters of double crochets. Okay, just as made here. I'll meet you at the end of the row, and then we continue. So this is the end of row 5. I just repeated the same thing, making sure I work the same 3 double crochets, chain 2, 3 double crochets in each corner space, okay, to maintain the square, and then I just work my 3 double crochets in each regular. I told you it increases as time goes by. So this is my last cluster corner space. I'm just going to chain 1, slip stitch into the very first chain 3 I made, as we have been doing. The only difference is that these keep increasing. So since this is 3, you're going to have 4 for the next row, which is row 6. So just prepare with your chain 3 as usual. Place a total of 2 double crochets in the same exact space, making an increase and your very first cluster, and continue. Okay, chain 1, move to the next space, 3 double crochets, chain 1, move to the next space, 3 double crochets, chain 1, move to the next space, 3 double crochets. Okay, so you realize that it has now increased to 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. The next will be 5, 6, and so on and so forth. I said I'm going to do 9 rows for this shade before I switch to white. So just make sure you continue. Chain 1, make your corner space cluster. Continue with the same exact thing, make your corner space cluster, and then we'll slip stitch to join. Now I'm going to leave you to figure this on your own without direction, because this is the same repetition except that it keeps increasing. Okay, it keeps increasing. So if this is 4, the next one when you continue will be 5, and so on and so forth, and you are going to do a total of 9 rows. Okay, so this is row 6. So that means we have 3 more rows, okay, to go after completing this row. Okay, I'll show you how to switch to the white, and that will be the next slide. So end of row 9. Okay, we have a total of 9 rows so far. Just get ready to switch colors. Okay, so after slip stitching, you're just going to chain 1, pull about 1.5 inches long of strand, grab your safety scissors and just cut it secure. Okay, put this aside, grab your next contrast color, which mine is white. We're using it for the stripe detail. Just pull the middle in order to help me, work the stitches nicely. Now go back, insert your hook into the very last chain 1 you made to connect. So just insert, grab your yarn, the next contrasting color, and then pull through. Okay, leave about 1 inch strand, yarn over, pull through the loop, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through. So we have just chained 3, and in the same exact space we are going to put a total of 2 double crochets. Okay, so you can now leave the strand behind. You can sew in later, but what I do is tie a knot secure nicely to secure it. So just tie 2 knots to secure. You can now continue. So you're going to chain 1, move to the next space, 3 double crochets as usual. So you meet your corner space. Okay, just like how we do it, except that we are going to have an increase. So I'll meet you in the corner space, same old, except that we are using white this time. So getting to the corner space, as usual, 3 double crochets, chain 2, 3 double crochets. Nicely done. We are going to continue this till you get to your corner space. However, so far we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 in between each corner. Okay, so that means the next one will be 9, and so on and so forth. So for the white repetition, we are going to do 2 rows. So after completing this row, I'm going to do 1 more row, and then we'll switch back to this deep brown color for an extra 2. I'm going to show you the number of stripes for each repetition shortly. Okay, so we are going to switch back after 2 rows of white, and then grab the next color, we are going to make the same repetition, however in 2 stripes. Okay, so we are going to make 2 rows in the deep brown, and then we switch back to white again, and then deep brown, and then white, and then we finally switch to the rest of the rows with the main brown color. Okay, I'm going to show you right after the intersections I make to get the exact stripe design from the initial process. So you realize that we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We have 9 in between, which means this will be 10. The next row will be 11, and then it increases for each section one cluster for each section. Make sure you work the corner spaces. I'll see you when I'm done. So with the stripes, I did 2 rows in white, 2 rows in deep brown, another 2 rows in white, 2 rows in deep brown, and finally 2 rows in white. That means we have 6 rows for the right section, and then in total we have 19 rows, which means we have 4 more rows in order to have the total number of 23 rows we need for the back panel. Okay, we are working on the back panel or the square detail before we work the other details. Okay, the side panel together with the bottom panel. Okay, so what I'm going to do is cut off and attach my deep brown yarn and work the rest of the 4 rows. Now at the corner space, you realize that I'm having 18 clusters of 3 double crochets in each space, which means by row 23, which is 3 more rows from now, you should have a total of 21 clusters in between each corner before you make the corner shell. Okay, which is really quite easier from here because each side increased by 1. Okay, and it has been dominant since. So I'll meet you when I'm done. Just go along with the same repetition, making sure you put 3 double crochet in each space till you get to the next corner, where you're going to put a total of 3 double crochets, chain 2, 3 double crochets in the same exact space to make the corner. Same for this side and the other side, which is the final one before you slip stitch to join. I'll meet when I'm done with my total of 4 rows for the brown section, and then we work on the main section. So at this moment, the full square is completed. I'm done with my total of 23 rows, and this is the measurement 44 centimeters to 45. Anything in between you should be fine. Because of differences in gauge, we tend to have a whole different centimeter measurement after the whole process. But if you are between this measurement for the cross back, you should be fine. That means you are going to switch to the next step, which is step 2. Step 2 is this process where you start from one of the sides and work towards downward, and then work towards the base, and then move upwards, and then you come back and forth in order to extend this square into a rectangular form and to also build upon the sides or the base of the sides. So first, you're going to get rid this chain, the one you ended with. Just chain 1, pull the yarn, cut and secure. You could weave in later on. Now you are going to pick this corner space. Okay, when you lie it down flat, you're going to pick this corner space. Okay, for the front section, make sure your square is facing the right side, and because when you turn it to the opposite side, this is the back of the square, and we don't want the back stitches, so make sure it's facing the right side. And then you insert your hook into the corner space, because we are going down and then the base, and then we end here. So you are still going to grab the yarn you cut off, the dominant yarn color. So you are going to make a slip knot and then slip stitch to join, just like this. We are going to chain a total of 3. 1, 2, 3 to begin this row. In the corner space, you are going to put a total of 2 double crochets. So 1 and then 2. Okay, we are going to make the sleeve opening. Okay, so since we are going to work on the front panel, we need an opening which will later be worked around to produce the sleeves. Okay, we are going to get a hang of it whilst I finish. So my sleeve width my sleeve width is 28 centimeters. Okay, 28 centimeters. I'm going to chain a number of chains to fit the 28 centimeter criteria. The previous one was 24 centimeters, the sleeve width, and mine is 28 centimeters. So you should make sure that your sleeves are not that tight on. You need some loose sleeves, so I added an extra 4-inch for, you know, the loosening of the sleeve. So for me, 48 chains gives me 28 centimeters. So depending on your gauge, chain that amount. So I'm going to chain 48. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So now I have my 48 chains. However, the 28 centimeters, which makes this length, should correspond with the length over here on what you are about to work on. So pick your tape measure a total of 28 centimeters if you have the same width as mine, sleeve width, and then mark the X space. So I actually counted 13 granny stitches, and then I marked the next piece after the 13. Okay, so you place a stitch marker there, and that's when you are going to work first stitch to join. So what you want to do now is to trace to the opposite side. Move your square, trace to the opposite side. Also count 13. So including this shell, you count it as 1, the corner space as 1. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Which means this space, this chain 1 space after the 13, I'm going to put your stitch marker there, and that's it. So being it, you have marked the opposite side, so that when you get there, you can skip and make the chains for the other side as well. So yeah, let's work on. I chained 48. Now I'm going to work my first 3 double crochets in where the stitch marker is placed. So yarn over, insert into the space, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and add your extra 2 double crochets in the same exact space. That is how I work my sleeve. So now you are going to work towards the side till we get to the next corner space. All you have to do is chain 1, the regular same old, move to the next space, 3 double crochets, chain 1, 3 double crochets in the next space, chain 1, 3 double crochets in the next space, chain 1, 3 double crochets in the next space, chain 1, 3 double crochets in the next space, chain 1, 3 double crochets in the next space, chain 1, 3 double crochets in the next space, chain 1, 3 double crochets in the next space, chain 1, 3 double crochets in the next space. So we are moving to our corner space. Okay, let's just keep track for some context. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I have 10 clusters before we move to the corner space. Okay, so we are going to chain 1 in the corner space. I'm going to put a total of 3 double crochets, sorry. So 1, 2, 3, chain 2, 3 double crochets in the same exact space. Now you turn towards the base. Okay, chain 1, 3 double crochets in the next space, chain 1, 3 double crochets in the next space. So you are going to do this till you meet the next corner space, which is here. I'll give you the total number of granny stitches I made for the base in between the shells, and I'll meet you here. Now at the next corner space for the button, the opposite corner space, just for context, we now have 22 granny stitches in between this and the one we're about to work. Okay, realize that when we completed the square, we had 21 for each side, so 22 means there's also going to be an extended increase, even though the square is going to extend into a rectangle. Okay, so we are going to chain 1 and in the corner space as usual, 3 double crochets, chain 2, 3 double crochets. So you realize that the opposite side was 10 granny stitches, meaning you are going to work 10 granny stitches in the next 10 spaces before you reach the chain side, which makes it, you know, even more exciting since we have been keeping track of the stitches. So I'm going to chain 1 in the next space. I'm going to put 3 double crochets. So this is going to be the first granny stitch. So 1, first granny stitch, chain 1. This is going to be the second granny stitch in the next space, 2, chain 1. This is going to be the third granny stitch, chain 1, fourth, chain 1, 5. We are almost there. Chain 1, 6. Chain 1, 7. Chain 1, 8. Chain 1, 9. And then chain 1, 10. That is where the stitch marker is, which is going to be our final before we chain, a total of 48. Okay, we are done with our 10 granny stitches. It's now time for the sleeve opening. So I'm going to chain 48. 48 chains, and then in the corner space, 3 double crochets to end this first row. Okay, nicely done. So now we are going to work towards downwards again. Okay, we are not going to work at all for this across back section as indicated for step 2. So what are we going to do? We are going to chain a total of 4. Okay, turn our work facing the chains. Okay, so now we are going to skip this first granny stitch. Okay, I'm going to skip this whole granny stitch, and then in the next space you can see a little bit gapping here. I'm going to put a total of 3 double crochets. So yarn over in this space, you are going to put a total of 3 double crochets in the same exact space. Okay, you should have something like this. The chain 4 is going across the previous granny stitch we made. Now what are you going to do? You are going to chain 1 to make a separation. You skip 3 stitches, 3 chain spaces. I know it might be a little bit difficult to view, but just maneuver your way. So 1, 2, 3 stitches. Okay, so in the 4th one, somewhere here, you're going to put a total of 3 double crochets. Okay, so 1 in the same exact space, 2, and then 3. Okay, made nicely. You chain 1, skip the next 3 stitches, chain spaces, sorry, so 1, 2, 3, and in the 4th chain space you are going to put a total of 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. Okay, nicely done. Chain 1. Let's do it again. Skip the next 3 stitches. In the 4th, I'm going to put a total of 3 double crochets. So I'm going to do it all over this chain space I made for the opening. I'm going to meet you here. Okay, and I'll show you how to blend in with the rest. Okay, so I'll give you also the number of granny stitches for the chain side. So we are about to make our last granny stitch before we join the real main work. Okay, so I'm just going to chain 1. For context, this is a chain 5 left. However, instead of skipping 3, I'm just going to skip the 4 chains and then blend in, okay, and then put 3 double crochets into the 5th. Sometimes the chain might vary, okay, you might end up with the exact same amount, but you just have to work your way, okay. So since this is my last granny stitch, in total I have 13 granny stitches before I blend in with the main work, okay. So now I'm going to chain 1 and then just go to the next chain 2 space for the main work and put a total of 3 double crochets as usual, blending in finally and working the stitches, okay. So this is what you're supposed to have. Now I'm going to work till I meet the corner space, okay. Whenever you get to the corner space, you are still going to maintain a total of 3 double crochets, chain 2, 3 double crochets. You move downwards towards the base, you meet another corner space. You are still going to maintain the total of 3 double crochets, chain 2, 3 double crochets, and then you are going to work towards this side, okay. I'll meet you at the opposite chain, but it's going to be the same repetition as made, but I'll meet you here just to give you some context of how I transition to this part. Back in the opposite direction where we have the 48 chains, I work towards the granny stitches towards this direction. This is the last granny stitch. We are going to move to our chain, so I'm just going to chain 1, okay, and then skip this whole cluster, and in the next space, next chain space, I'm going to put a total of 3 double crochets, okay. So 1, 2, and then 3 double crochets. So I'm just going to follow along, chain 1, skip the next 3 spaces, and in the 4th chain 3 double crochets. Please repeat the same exact thing. Chain 1 and then skip 3 stitches in the 4th chain, 3 double crochets. I'll meet you at the end and then we'll keep counting. So getting to the end, I'm going to put my last granny stitch. So this, I'm going to skip 3 chains in the 4th chain somewhere here, okay. I'm going to put a total of 3 double crochets. So 1, 2, and then 3. Nicely done right there. Afterwards, I'm just going to chain 1, okay, just chain 1, and on the last cluster, the last double crochet for the cluster, we are going to put a double crochet, just a double crochet there to make it even, okay. So there will be this gap space in between, okay, and that is it, okay. We have the same two over here. You could see that the front panel is also developing. This is our second row, but because we did chain for here, you are just seeing one granny stitch row, but this is our second row. So that means we are going to add 4 more rows, okay, 4 more rows in deep brown, 4 more rows in deep brown, just going back and forth. You just go back and forth. When you get to the end, you do your 3 double crochets, chain 2, 3 double crochets to 10 to the base. You do the same, and then you are just going back and forth for 4 more rows, okay. Before we transition into white, we'll be making this same exact design stripe, intersection 2, 2, 2, 2, 2 again, okay. So I'm just going to relax, add my 4 more rows. I'll meet you to give you a little context about the intersection, but let's just work 1 row. So in the next row, we are just going to chain a total of 3 turn your work. In the same exact gap space, we are going to put a total of 2 extra double crochets, making a cluster in that space. Okay, so that means when you are working the next row, you'll be chaining over it, okay, to keep the straight edge. Afterwards, we are going to chain 1 to separate, move to the next space, 3 double crochets. Okay, as usual, you are just going to work the same detail, chain 1, 3 double crochets all around till you get to the end, and then you make your shell, move to the base, you make your shell, you come towards the opposite side and end here with a total of 3 double crochets in this hole. Okay, and then as I said, we'll be working 4 more rows. Okay, so this is the third row, which means we are going to have 6 rows for the brown section. Yeah, so after completing the row I just began, I'm going to do 3 extra. I'll show you how the ends look like, so that you do not go ahead to increase, because you need to keep a straight edge, and that's the only variation. End of row 3. Let me give you a little bit information on how to keep a straight edge. It's going to be an intersection between row 2 and row 3. Okay, so that means we are going to repeat the same thing we did for row 2 previously. Okay, after the whole square, okay, the working of the rounds. So instead of, what we are going to do is we are going to chain 4 as we did for row 3. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and you turn your work, and then you just work 3 double crochets as usual in the next piece. Okay, so that means when we end this row, the next row will be a repetition of just like row 3. This time we are going to put 3 double crochets to begin, since we created a hole or a gap with the chain 4, and that will be the simultaneous repetition. As I said, I'm supposed to do a total of 6 rows for this brown section, so just continue with your number of rows, and I'll just give you a little context of how to change color, but it's just the same thing. Okay, it's just the same thing. I'll give you a little context. So this is what we have after 6 rows of repetition around. Okay, this is when I'm going to switch to the white, okay, yarn, and as usual I'm going to follow this white pattern design, which is 2 in white, I switch back, 2 in deep brown, 2 in white, I switch back, 2 in deep brown, and 2 in white, and the rest of the rows afterwards is when I switch permanently to deep brown. So yes, to switch colors as usual, I'm going to cut off the yarn, leave an inch, and grab your next color, make a slip knot leaving an inch long, and then slip stitch to the corner where you cut off the yarn. So slip stitch. Now you are going to chain a total of 3. Okay, this is when we are going to put a total of 2 double crochets in the space. So previously we ended with chain 4. So if we end with chain 4, the next row is when we just chain regular 3 and put a total of 2 double crochet in the same exact space, making a total of 3. Okay, then you chain 1, move to the next space, go ahead and put a total of 3 double crochets. Okay, and that will be the repetition. Okay, that will be the repetition all around. Sorry for the background noise, but yeah, I'll do 2 rows and I'll just do the regular repetition until I switch back to regular, deep brown, and we'll move to the next step after I complete. In total, together with the 6 rows you have already made, you should make a total of 25 rows. 25 rows for this repetition. Okay, and then that is when we will work on the other parts a little bit. Yeah, I'll meet you when I'm done. So I have 69 centimeters for the length. Okay, so after several row repetition, this is how your front is supposed to look. Initially I was supposed to do a total of 25 rows to achieve this. However, after making a total of 21 rows, I've been able to achieve the length, which means the gauge has actually changed and it has made us get to the achieved outcome, which is 69 centimeters for the length, which means after the striped repetition, okay, let me show you quickly. We went ahead to do 2 rows in white, 2 rows in deep brown, 2 rows in white, 2 rows in deep brown, 2 rows in white, and we're supposed to do 9 rows in deep brown. However, we ended up doing 5 rows, which means 4 rows has been omitted, and that is why it's important to measure and go with the length size. So since this is okay, we'll now be concentrating on the essential parts of the top of the summer shirt. So you realize that I've turned this work upside down. Okay, I've turned it on the wrong side, so this is supposed to be the inside. I've just turned it to the opposite side so that joining becomes easier. And then what we are going to do is that we are going to leave a little bit length, okay, for the collar. Okay, so the reason why I've placed this stitch marker is because I measured 12 centimeters. Okay, 12 centimeters from the side. Okay, so 12 centimeters from this side. Okay, and then I place my stitch marker here, and then the rest of the length will be 11 centimeters. Okay, and don't worry, we'll be adding some extra borders to close up the front and bring it back closer for the button to secure it. So you are going to join from here to here, which is 12 centimeters, and leave this length line around, and we are going to do it the same for the opposite side. And since we have turned it upside down, we can just use single crochet stitches to join nicely and smoothly, because we'll turn it back again. So just grab your pair of scissors and cut off, and then let's work on joining this. Okay, so I'm just going to slip stitch into the corner space and then single crochet to join. So I just grab this loop and the other, pull through and single crochet. So this is when your single crochet stitch becomes useful. But you could also slip stitch. The reason why I'm choosing single crochet stitches is because it becomes more, it doesn't become like extra tighter. Okay, it becomes more loose, like in a comfortable position. If it becomes so much tight, it becomes very stiff. Okay, so I'm just single crocheting in all the spaces I find, just kind of using my intuition till I get to where the stitch marker is, and I'm going to repeat it for the other side as well. So just single crochet nicely to join. So when you get to the stitch marker, this is going to be the last piece. Just chain one and cut off with your pair of scissors. And you're going to weave in the yarn later. Okay, you can now remove your stitch marker. This is going to be the 11 centimeters left, 12. You have single crochet 12. So when you turn it upside down, you realize that the seam is hidden. Okay, it's blending in nicely, and that's why we did this upside down. Okay, and we are going to do the same thing over here, and then we'll work on our next step. Okay, so at this moment I have joined the opposite side as well, and since it's joined in the wrong side, we are just going to turn to the right side in order to and we'll get the seams hidden before we work on the collar. Okay, so just a little bit information, we are going to work on the collar before working on the extra extension towards the front area. So now that you have turned it inside out, you are now going to attach your yarn at one corner of the topper side. So this top side, we are just going to grab one corner, and then you are going to attach your yarn. So you are going to work in rounds all the way to the opposite side. Okay, so for my collar, I'll be making 9 to 10 rows depending on how you want it to fold. Okay, it's just a couple of more rows. You could go in with interchanging or mixing up the white with it, but you could also go in with just brown depending on the yarn you have at your disposal. Okay, so I'm just going to slip stitch to this corner, and just chain 4. Okay, now I'm going to move to the next piece and put a total of 3 double crochets. Chain 1 as usual, skip this whole bunch, move to the next piece, 3 double crochets. So you realize that we are actually working on index pieces and skipping the granny stitches. So you chain 1, move to the next piece, 3 double crochets, chain 1, move to the next piece, 3 double crochets, chain 1, three double crochets, so this time just skip this 3 double crochet after chaining 1. Realize that there's no necessary gap. This gap is a little bit small because of joining. I'm just going to move to the next space over here and just join with 3 double crochets in that space. So that's it. Now continue by chaining 1, putting 3 double crochet in each space. When you get to this corner, I'll show you what to do in order to transition into the rest of the border. Here in the other corner space, okay, you just chain 1 as usual. You skip this 3 double crochets and just move to the next and put a total of 3 double crochets. Nicely done. And then you continue till you get to the end of the row. I'll meet you here. The end of the row here, you're just going to chain 1 and end with a double crochet on the last piece, creating a space, okay, on top of the 3 double crochets from the previous design. So what you're going to do is that you're just going along with the regular rows for the next 4 rows. Okay, so since we have done 1 row, we're going to add 4 more rows of regular, and on the 6th row, that is when we are going to do our decrease, our very first decrease for the edges. So add 4 more rows and I'll meet you there as usual. This time when you are beginning, you realize that you're just going to chain 3 and then add an extra 2 double crochets in the same space as I've been teaching you and then you can now just continue to the end. As I said, add 4 more rows to this one row we have already worked, and we'll be decreasing on the sit row. So we have 5 rows so far for the collar. This is going to be the sit row. Okay, so let's work the sit row. The sit row is going to be our first and only decrease for the collar section. Okay, so in order to do that, we have to slip stitch across towards this chain space, and then this double crochet, 3 double crochet cluster, so that we can work our stitch in between instead. So to slip stitch, we can just chain 1 first, insert into the next space, pull through, then pull up a loop, move to the next space. Okay, can be a little bit tight, pull through, pull up a loop, and slip stitch across the double crochet cluster, and then finally place your last slip stitch in the space after the double crochet, the 3 double crochet cluster for the side. Okay, so we are now inside the chain space. To secure, you are just going to chain a total of 3, and then you are going to work your extra 2 double crochets in the same exact space, making 3 double crochet for here. And then we are going to work your regular chain 1, 3 double crochets in the space, chain 1, 3 double crochets until you get to the edge. Now let me mark that particular space for you. You are going to put your total of 3 double crochets in this space, and that's when you end there. You do not go across here, you end at where the stitch marker is. So I'm just going to meet you here shortly. Now at the end of the row, we place 3 double crochets in where the stitch marker has been placed, which is the last space. Just for context, the previous granny stitches, the stitch count for the previous granny stitches before we decrease was 22. So now we're going to have 20 granny stitches. If you have something more, if you don't have the same accurate number, you shouldn't panic. Everyone's stitches differs. All you have to do is that we are on the same level with the decrease stitch pattern, and that's what matters. So the rest of the rows, I'm going to add an extra 4 or 3 rows just to add some depth. These are regular rows. This is going to be the only decrease row, so I'm just going to chain 4 as usual, and let's move directly into the next space and place a total of 3 double crochets. Okay, and then that will be it. I'm going to do this for 3 to 4 rows, and that's it for the collar. Okay, the next step would be focusing on both the sleeve. These are the last steps: the sleeves, which is very basic, and then the front opening, because we have to work some stitches to close up, as I said previously, with the bottom. So I'm just going to finish up the collar. We finish these last 2 steps, and then we'll be adding some borders, and then we can call it a done deal. So after completing the collar, in total 10 rows, I cut off, and I'm going to rejoin at the front section, the front opening to be precise. Okay, so I just laid it down straight, and then I'm going to attach at this very point, okay, where the collar started decreasing. Okay, I'm just going to attach here with a single crochet. So let's do it. So chain 1, single crochet into the next 2, into the space, 2 times into the space. So 1 single crochet in, 2 single crochet in the space, sorry, and then we are going to chain a total of 3. Okay, now skip this whole double crochet cluster and put a total of 3 double crochets in the space. Okay, okay, so that's going to be a decrease. Okay, the reason why we did a decrease at this first instance is because we want it to slide a little. Okay, we want the neckline or the collar line, the front collar line, to slide a little, but the rest is going to be regular granny stitches till you get to the end. This time we are not going downwards, we are not working towards the base, we are going to stop over here. So I'm just going to place my stitch marker here, and I'm going to stop there at this corner space. So yes, I'm just going to chain 1, skip the granny stitch, 3 double crochets, so I meet you at the end, and I'll show you how I end to get a straight edge and continue working across the opening. Okay, so whatever we are going to do here, it will be the same thing for the other opening, the opposite side. So just take notice, and then we repeat it for the opposite side. So now regular granny stitches, and we are at where the stitch marker has been placed, the end. So from the beginning we did a chain of 3, okay, to mark this space. So in order to correspond with that same ideology, we are going to chain 1 and just place a double crochet in the chain 2 space, the corner space where the stitch marker has been placed, to keep that straight edge. Now we are going to turn our work and then chain 3, and then in the same exact space we are going to put a total of 2 double crochets. So the chain 3 also counts as a stitch as usual, and then you are just going to continue your regular granny stitch to the end of the row. Okay, and the end of the row, I'm just going to keep a stitch marker here so that I'll show you how I end. Okay, and then give you the number of granny stitches right on your screen somewhere here, the number of granny stitches we are going to do that for that front opening. We are going to do it for the opposite side as well. So yeah, so now at the end of the row where the stitch marker has been placed, remember this chain 3 we made from the previous row when beginning. We are just going to, after our last 3 double crochet in this space, this is supposed to be the last space, do not double crochet, just single crochet 2 times in the same exact space. Turn your work, okay, turn your work, slip stitch 1, 2, 3 and 4, okay, and then 5 into the space. So you slip stitch all the way into the next immediate space. So in the next 5 spaces, now you are going to chain a total of 3 and then place a total of 2 double crochets in the same exact space, right? You should have something like this. Now you chain 1 in the next space, normal 3 double crochets. Okay, so this marks the end of the decrease for this collar section. The rest of the rows are going to be regular rows. So just 3 double crochets in the space, chain 1, 3 double crochets till you get to the end of the row. When you get to the end of the row, you chain again, go back, add 2 extra rows. So in total 5 rows for this front. We have already made 2 rows and we are on the 3rd one. So after completing this row, we are going to add 2 regular rows of granny stitches, no decrease as I taught you, just regular rows to add up to the border. And I'm going to repeat the same thing for the other side. I'll meet you for my full progress and the sleeves, but I'm just going to go ahead to work one sleeve behind the scenes, and then the next sleeve I'll work it with you on how I maneuver and make the sleeve length and width. So as you can see, I'm already done with one particular sleeve, and so I'm going to show you how I attach to work the sleeve as a whole. So I'm still going to attach my brown yarn in any of the chain one spaces from the previous row. Which one? I'm just going to choose a convenient one. So I'm just going to slip stitch over here in this space, and then we'll be working rounds. Okay, this working the sleeves is very easy. Okay, so I'm just going to slip stitch to join, and then just chain 2 to begin, chain 3, sorry, to begin. Now in the same exact space, I'm going to add an extra 2 double crochets to make your first cluster. And afterwards, I'm going to chain 1, move to the next space. Inside the space here, we are going to put 3 double crochets there. So we are just going to work the granny stitch, okay, around, chain 1, 3 double crochets in the next space, chain 1, 3 double crochets in the next space, all around towards the edges, okay, till you meet the very first cluster you made, and I'll show you how to join. Now done with the 3 double crochet cluster in each space. This is the end of the row. I'm just going to chain 1 and slip stitch into the very first chain 3 I made. Nicely done. And that is it. Okay, this is just regular rows. So we are going to add 18 more regular rows to get the length of my sleeve. Okay, this is the sleeve I made. So I made 19 rows in total. So since we are done with one row, we are just going to add 18, and then we are going to work on the edging of the sleeve, the borders for every sides, and then we are done. Okay, I love this shirt because it is very basic and beginner friendly. You don't need to be joining panels. So if you are someone who is not really fan of joining panels, this is the perfect shirt for you. And I would love to see your recreations on this, because I just love working on this project. Oosh, that's a yarn buff. I'll have to cut it off. Oh my god. So I'll see you when you are done with your 18 extra rows, and then we work on the borders and the other parts to sew the button as well, fixing the button to close it as well. Sleeves completed, and it's about time I add the edging. Okay, so I'm going to add a sleeve edging before I cut off. Okay, so what I'm going to do is to make half double crochet stitches. So I'm just going to chain 1, half double crochet in the next space, not in the same space but the next, and then in the following space. Okay, now what I'm going to do is to move to the chain 1 space and half double crochet, chain 3, go back in the same space and half double crochet to create this, edging. Okay, now I'm going to skip the next double crochet and half double crochet into the following. So half double crochet into the following, and then in the next. Now we are meeting the next chain 1 space. I'm just going to place a half double crochet there, chain 3, in the same exact space, half double crochet to create this nice space. So that's how I work my edgings for this particular sleeve before I work the border. So I'm just going to put 2 half double crochet on top of this cluster. So to do that, I just skip the first one move to the next, half double crochet, move to the following, half double crochet, and then move to the space, half double crochet, and then chain 3, and then in the same exact space place a half double crochet there. That is how I'm going to do my repetition all around. I'll meet you still stitch to join, and then we would work on the whole full length border of the shirt. So when you get to the corner space, you are going to put a total of 3 double crochets in the space to help you turn to the other side. So now we are moving towards this direction, and then we are going to place a double crochet in each of the spaces we find. So just put a double crochet in each space till you get to this section, okay, till you get to the end of the collar peak. So I'm going to place a stitch marker there to indicate that we'll be stopping there, and then we are going to transition back into half double crochet stitches. So we are at the place where you have to transition into half double crochet stitches. I'm just going to remove your stitch marker, chain 1, and then move to the next stitch in the corner there and place a half double crochet. So I'm going to place a half double crochet in each space you find towards the rough edges. So I'm now going to leave you to figure this out. We are going to continue with half double crochet for this rough edges as well, and also this top base of the collar, and also the opposite side for the half base. When you get to where the orange stitch marker is here, you just transition to double crochet stitches, and then to the end of the corner space where you are going to slip stitch to join to the previous half double crochet for the base, and then that is the done deal. Okay, you can add extra borders, and this is how the outcome is going to be. You add buttons. The button process can also be optional. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Love you.